Hey guys, my name is Stuart and today we're going to be having a look at how to build this electromagnet crane kit. So if you have a look inside, you'll find that you've got a whole bunch of different components. You'll have two strips of cardboard, single fluted cardboard. Then what we've got is three separate 10 by 20 centimeter boards of cardboard, but two of them have been profiled. So you can see this one has got little cutouts on it. Some of them are falling apart on this one. And then this one, which has got a bunch of these triangle things and some extra bits over there. Then you'll find that you've got a whole bunch of skewers. There should be about 10 or so, 2, 4, 6, 10, and a cardboard circle. Then you have some curious gum. This is like an industrial press stick that we use for securing our kits together. A little syringe full of wood glue with the end of a skewer stuck in to prevent the wood glue from leaking out and drying out. You'll find that you've got a battery holder, two AA batteries, a thread card with wire. This is wrapping wire and we're going to use this to make our electromagnet, and another card with some thread on the card. These may be different colors. We use different colors, wire and thread in different kits. And then you'll find that you've got two small elastic bands, a little LED. This is a red LED, but it's only red when it's turned on, otherwise it's clear, and a chipboard screw. So that's what you've got inside of your kit. Let's go from here into step one. For the first step, you're going to need your glue, your cardboard disc, the profile cut out with the triangle sections on it, although we're not going to use these for now, and just your plain baseboard that you've got here. So we're going to use these to make the base of our crane. So to start with, you'll need a knife or a pair of scissors, and you're going to separate the triangle parts of your crane base kit so that you have this. You can put this aside, we're not using this now. We're actually going to be using these two. So if you twist these and move it up and down, they break off like that, but it's best if you're working neatly to use a pair of scissors or a knife. If you are using a blade like this, be very careful not to cut yourself. You can cut all the way through to these. So we're going to separate these parts there and there, and now you've got two slotted pieces of cardboard, and these two are going to slot together like that, and you're going to need to wiggle it a little bit to get it to be a nice tight fit, but be careful not to crush the flutes of the cardboard as you're pushing it together. Right, you'll find that when you've got that together, it's just the right size for you to be able to take this and place it on top. So if you have a look there, that's the right size to fit neatly over there. This is what we're going to be using for the base of our crane, and the whole top of our crane is going to pivot and move up and down on this. So what we're going to do is we're going to glue this down onto our base board over here. But first we need to mark where we're going to put this. Right, so I want to put this section in the middle of the one half of this card base. So I'm going to get my ruler and I'm going to measure at 100 millimeters, because we can see it's 200 millimeters long, 100 millimeters. I'm going to put a little mark there very lightly with a pencil, and then I'm also going to mark it at 50 over here, because that is half of this square. Then I'm going to move it across, and I'm going to mark again in two places 50. That's the middle of this board, and I'm going to move it down towards the other side and put it at 50. Now it's difficult to see these two lines, but I'm going to line my ruler up, and I'm going to use those two marks that I've made to draw a center line through the half of my board. So you can see, there you go, that's the center line. So remember, that's the halfway mark for the center of this half of the board. So this is 1/4 of the length of the full board. Now that's all we need to be able to line this up nicely, because we're going to put this part along the center line that we've drawn, and we're going to make sure that this part is covering that mark that we've drawn as the halfway mark. So that's that mark over there. Right, so we're going to glue this down just like that, and that's going to be the pivot point for our crane. Once we've done that, we're going to glue this on like that, and there we've got the start of the base of our crane. So let's get started with some gluing. First, I'm going to pull this peg out of the nozzle on my glue stick. This is just normal wood glue, and it works really well for gluing cardboard together, but you just need to be very careful not to use too much, because if you use too much glue, it's going to take very long for it to dry, and it's not going to make it any stronger. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a small amount of our glue, and I'm going to just push it down. Whoa, that's coming out too fast. And I'm going to glue it along both sides, all the way along the bottom of this. There we go, and then along the other strip. Right. So again, not too thick. We're going to go just that. You can see I've used a tiny little bit of glue in this, and then we're going to turn it over, line it up on our marks, and push it down nice and firmly so that our glue is holding it in place. Right, then what we're going to do is we're going to take the other side and glue just like we've done on the first side. Put a strip of glue along the top, both sides, and we're going to take our disc and we're going to place it so that it's over the center of our base. Okay, and now we want to hold this down nice and firmly. So if you can do is put it aside and find something nice and heavy to place on it, preferably something flat like a book. So what I can do is I can take my coffee cup, I'm going to push it aside, and I'm just going to stick my coffee cup on top of it like that, and that's going to hold it in place, and I'm going to leave it for about half an hour so that it can dry nicely, and we're going to move on to the next step. Just to give you a different angle so that you can see what's happening here, the glue is gluing all the way along the bottom. You can focus please. Alright, and you can see it's glued nicely along the bottom, and you want to kind of see some glue coming around all the way around so that we can see that it's glued properly. If you find that it didn't quite make a nice join, you can take the glue stick and you can run it along the sides a little bit like this, and just fill the corners a little bit to make sure that it's really well glued down. We don't want this to fall off while we're busy using our crane. But remember, you've got to use this glue for other things, and if you put too much, it can actually be worse than if you put too little. So you're going to run the glue through like there, just to make sure that it's really strong. And again, as I said, this is not super necessary. Only if you feel like it's not strong enough, you can add this on, so that it's got a good strong layer of glue around the base. You can do it along the top again, but the top is not actually that important. All the round part along the top here is just to keep the round shape for when the top part of our crane is turning along it, and you'll see that mechanism come together as we move along in the steps. So as I said, now we're going to take this and we're going to put this again on a flat surface with something reasonably heavy on the top here, so that it's just got something to keep it in place while it's drying. Then when you're done with your glue, you can just take this peg and stick it back in again so that it doesn't form a skin over the top and start drying out. For step 2, you're going to take the offcut of cardboard that you had from your previous step. You're going to take the other part of our triangles that we also had. So the first part first step we used the two little slotted pieces in the middle. Now we're using this piece and this piece. You're also going to need 4 skewers, and you need to use a ruler and a pair of scissors or a knife to cut and make these next pieces. So step 2, we're going to start making the boom of our crane. And the boom part is the part, that long arm of the crane that the electromagnet's going to attach to. And that part's going to be moving up and down, left and right, to be able to make our crane useful. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our cutout over here, and I'm going to use my knife to separate the individual triangles so that we can use them for building our boom. So these triangle sections make up the entire sort of 3-dimensional element of our boom. So you can separate them all. Some of them are easy enough to break out, but if you are breaking them out, be careful not to kink the cardboard as you're breaking it. So if you feel like you're pushing it and it's too tight, then rather just take a blade and run it along it so you can separate it nicely. You should have something like that, and then you can also push out the middle triangle, because that's just an offcut. On some of your kits they might just fall out, but here we go. You need to cut out and make sure that you've got 6 of these. Next we're going to take our skewers, the 4 skewers that we unpacked from the start, and we're going to cut these into 6 pieces of 11 centimeters long. So if I take my ruler and the skewer, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 11. I'm going to put a mark over there. Then I'm going to cut it. Now there's 2 ways to cut it. If you've got a pair of scissors, if you take your scissors and you put it on that mark and you twist it around so that it's cutting all the way around, that's a great way of getting it to cut. You can see it's made quite a nice score mark, and then we can just break it at that point. That gives you quite a good way of cutting it. If you have a knife and you're working on a cutting mat, don't use this to cut straight into the table or your parents will kill you. We're going to take the other side and we're going to see that there's a little bit that we need to cut off because we need them as 11 centimeters, not 12. So the other way of cutting it, which I think is probably the best way of cutting these, is to put your blade on a knife and roll forwards so that the skewer spins around and the blade cuts into it. It makes a very, very tight cut all the way along, and then you can just snap it off and you get a nice neat cut going through. So that's our first 2 sections of skewer that are cut at exactly 11 centimeters long. Right, so we're going to do that for the next, we're not going to use the 4th one. We need 6 of these at 11 centimeters long. Right, the next step that we're going to be using to process our materials to get them ready to start assembling is we're going to take this rectangle of cardboard that we have as an offcut, and we want to make 2 sections that are 50 millimeters wide. If you look at it, the flutes, these little zigzag things on the inside of the cardboard, are running this way. So we want to now cut 2 sections at 50 millimeters. So that means we're going to cut this section in half. I'm going to make a pencil mark over there, flip it around, I'm going to make a pencil mark over there, and then I'm going to join the 2 so that I've got a line running through the center. Right, and then you can take your scissors or you can take a knife and you can cut through along that line. Cool, so this is where the fun starts, because now what we can do is we can take 2 of our skewers that we've cut to 11 centimeters long, and we're going to take the first one and we're going to stick it through the hole along this first triangle. You can stick it about 2 centimeters down. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So you're starting like that. Right. So next we're going to take one of our cardboard sections that we've cut out, and you'll find that these fit into the flutes going down the side, so those holes, oh, that's popped out, and they slot in nicely over there. Okay, so our first section is done. Now we're going to push these through so that they're around about halfway into this strip that we've got over here, and we're going to take our next section, triangle, we're going to slot it on the end, that side, we're going to slide it down. It's not critical about how far these stick out, but if we look, we know about 50, a little bit less than 50 or 5 centimeters long, and we're going to take this section again and stick it onto the other end so that we've got that. Alright, so now you can see the base part of our crane is starting to come together. We're going to repeat that process, and we're going to take another one of our cards, our triangles, another 2 of our sticks, and we're going to slot it in, stick it about 2 centimeters out, and then slot this end into the same holes. So try and make it go into the same holes that the other ones are going in. And so it's going to go in like that. Right. So you can see our boom starting to come together. We're going to continue, place this on the end, bend that one out a little bit. It helps if you twist these a little bit so that it can slot in nicely. And then push it down about 2 centimeters. Now, this side we're going to leave. We're not going to put a section of cardboard on this end, and we're going to flip around. We're going to do the same on this side. So we're going to slot this in again into the same holes that we ran our other skewers through. So if you just look down the flute, you can see which one to put it in, so that you look at along your boom, it's running straight. Okay. You can push these in now so that this and this are meeting up in the middle. This and this meeting up in the middle nicely. This side can stay like that. Right, so we're going to take our second last triangle and we're going to slot it over the end. Last end that we've got. Oh, it's pulling apart. Okay, now we're going to push this all the way down. Right, so now you want to try and make this so that it's as straight as possible. If you find that some of the sections are popping out a little bit, just adjust them so that they are all in the right length. Then what we're going to do, we're going to take this fourth skewer that we had before and we're going to slide it through along the top holes running along the top. And we're going to continue pushing it all the way through so that that completes our triangulated section of our boom. Might have to slide the one end down a little bit to get it to line up. Alright, there we have our boom section, and final part, we're going to take our last section of triangle and we're going to slot it over on the two ends here, sticking out. Sideways like this, and this becomes the tip of our crane. There we go. You can slide that all the way down. Oops.